We start now? Everybody is listening? Are you able to listen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we will be discussing surgery specimens. Okay. So what is the importance of surgery specimens? So it is for a better understanding of anatomical presentation and variations with surgical anatomy, and by knowing the surgery specimen we can diagnose intraoperatively, we correlate with the disease course, we should know what, by seeing the specimen, what surgery procedure has been done, and we can assess the outcome, like if we are seeing the metastasis inside the abdomen or seeing liver metastasis, so we can assess the outcome of the disease and follow up. What are the basics of specimen? There are certain points which we have to keep in mind, like what is the body organ which we are seeing and which anatomical site it was present. And second one is what surgical procedure has been done to obtain that specimen. What are the points in favor of clinical diagnosis? Means why you are saying this, that this is the specimen of this part. So what are the points in favor of? What is the gross pathological appearance? Means if there is a specimen of any part, so you can identify the gross pathological appearance of leading to which disease.
Suppose ulcer.
Yeah, like ulcer, like stomach ulcer. So
benign or malignant.
Yes, exactly. What is the disease part in that specimen, and later on discussion. So in that specimen, main thing is to identify what is the part, what is the disease part, what is the gross pathological appearance, what surgery has been done, and the major parts come under discussion. So 60 to 70 part of the specimen comes under the discussion. Only 30% is diagnosing the specimen, disease and surgical procedure. All other parts, 70% parts of specimen discussion comes for your marks. So what are the specimens we have? Like breast. In breast, we usually give CA breast. Like thyroid, it's usually a multinodular goiter or goiter or malignancy. Okay. In the stomach, usually there is a ulceroproliferative growth or ulcer, which can be benign or malignant. Later we will discuss. In small intestine, like specifically intussusception and Meckel's diverticulum, or any growth. Appendix. In colon, usually intussusception or any growth. Gallbladder specimen, spleen specimen, or specimen of penis. These are usually the
sometimes testes.
yeah, and usually sometimes they give a prostate or testis, but these are the usual specimens which we give in exam. So let's start. First one. Now try to identify this specimen. Actually, all these specimen I have taken pictures from all aspects, means right, anterior, posterior, and right and left side. So try to identify what specimen it is. Later I will tell. Okay. So have you made your mind what is this specimen? So let's see. So this is the specimen of spleen, and what surgical procedure has been performed to obtain that specimen is splenectomy. So what is the points in favor? Why you are saying, why we can say this is the spleen? That main thing is the color, that purple color of that specimen, and it always has two ends, three borders, two surface, two angles, and a hilum. I will later on discuss. Like now you see the specimen and see the anatomical presentation in our body. So you can see the hilum over here, you can see the upper pole, you can see the lower pole, and over here the visceral surface, and this is the hilum, and this is the diaphragmatic surface. and these are the borders, two, upper border and this is the lower border. Upper border is a round one, lower border is a sharp one. Okay. So two ends, anterior lateral ends is expanded and is more likely a border. It is directed downwards and forwards and reaches the mid axillary line. The posterior medial end is rounded. It is directed upwards and backwards and medially. Three borders, superior border is characteristic notched near anterior end. Inferior border is rounded. The intermediate border is also rounded and directed to the right. The two surfaces, the diaphragmatic surface is convex and smooth. The visceral surface is concave and irregular. This is the smooth and this is concave visceral surface. There are two angles, anterior vessel angles and posterior vessel angles, and hilum. Hilum lies in between the superior and intermediate borders. It is pierced by branches and tributaries of splenic vessels. So what is the anatomical position? Second question will come to you, what is the anatomical position? And why you say it is a spleen? It is soft, highly vascular, dark purple in color. Size of the spleen and weight of the spleen are markedly varied. It is a mild, moderate, severe, depending on the weight. If it is less than 500 grams, it is mild. 500 to 1 kilogram is moderate, and more than 1 kilogram is highly massive splenomegaly. Related to 9 to 11th ribs and lies in longitudinal axis of 10th rib.
Yeah.
So this is the
Splenic
axis presentation of the spleen in the splenic axis on the longitudinal axis of the 10th rib at 45 degree. This is the deposition of spleen in our body. It is a presentation. Okay. So what are the blood supply? Next question will come to you. What are the blood supplies? So in blood supply, you have to know what is the arterial supply and what are the venous drainages. So arterial supply for a spleen is a splenic vessel, which is a branch of celiac trunk, celiac axis, and venous drainage is a splenic vessels which get tributaries from short gastric veins, left gastroepiploic veins, and later joins inferior mesenteric vein to drain into portal vein. Okay. So main question for vascular arrangement that can be asked based on what is the arterial representation of spleen, splenic vessel. So splenic vessel usually runs behind the pancreas and enter into the hilum. Before entering into the hilum, it will there are usually two presentations of splenic artery. One is distributive, which gives branches before entering the hilum, and second one is magistral, which gives branches near to the hilum. So in which type there may be chances of hemorrhage during splenectomy? This type, because you cannot identify each and every vessel during splenectomy, and there might be chance of any you skip any vessel, small vessel, and there will be torrential hemorrhage. So distributive type is a dangerous type. So next question can come to you, what are the indications of splenectomy? Usually traumatic, in a injury, commonest one, road traffic accident, then certain hematological conditions like hemophilia, like thrombocytopenia, like malaria, schistosomiasis, and in conjugation with other surgeries like procedure radical gastrectomy, radical pancreatectomy, or for certain treatments like gastric varices. All these are the indications of splenectomy which can be asked. So next question will come to you, what are the steps of splenectomy? So you can see what I am discussing, all these are discussion part. So you should be thorough with the discussion part. Okay. So what are the steps of splenectomy? So usually incision given in a left subcostal incision known as Kehl's incision, or it can be approached to the midline incision. So how do we, what are the splenic ligaments? There are 4 ligaments which we should remove to approach for a spleen, like gastrosplenic, lienorenal ligament, splenoconic ligament, phrenicocholic ligament. Then we should access for the mobility of the spleen. Then we should go towards the hilum and see what is the splenic artery variation is there. Is it a distributive type or is it a magistral type? then identification of the splenic artery and vein. Then we have to identify particularly artery first, then vein. What is the benefit over it? The benefit of size reduction and less blood loss. Then we have to deliver the specimen from in that incision. We should look for any hemorrhage. We keep a drain in splenorenal pouch and we just close the abdomen. What is the main and significant or important complication of splenectomy?
Sir,
Yes, yes.
sir, how to assess the mobility of the spleen?
Actually, before once we approach toward the spleen, we have to see all the ligaments: gastrosplenic ligament, renal ligament, splenocholic ligament, or phrenicocholic ligaments. All these ligaments to be identified and excised. And after all these are the fixed points of the spleen. All 4 ligaments, if you remove all 4 ligaments, spleen will automatically be mobile. So you have to see, if you before excising all these ligaments, you see spleen you cannot mobilize the spleen. But after excising all these 4 ligaments, you can see that spleen is mobile. You can turn it on inside, medial side, or you can pull it downwards. Okay. So is it clear? So what is a major complication, which is the most dreaded complication of post-splenectomy, is a OPSI.
It is short note though.
It is usually a short note. So what is that is known as overwhelming post-splenectomy infection, which is usually which is caused by encapsulated bacteria, because there will be a defective phagocytosis of that part. It is because of there is a reduced IgM, tuftin, and properdin and other antibodies, which usually engulf that phagocytosis of encapsulated bacteria. So in post-splenectomy patients, encapsulated bacteria can cause infection, which is the most dreaded one, that is known as overwhelming post-splenectomy infection. Most commonly pneumococcal, Neisseria meningitidis, and Haemophilus influenza infection. So usually there are 1 to 2.5% risk of developing this OPSI. Okay, and this risk is higher in young children with hematological disease. Okay, so what are the symptoms, features? There will be prodromal phase of fever, chills, sore throat, hypotension, shock, DIC, and respiratory distress, and leads to death. So how you prevent it? By giving immunization. For elective splenectomy, you should immunize the patient, or you should give vaccine at least 2 weeks prior to the surgery. Or if it is emergency, so within 2 weeks post surgery. Okay, so you have to give pneumococcal vaccine, meningococcal vaccine, influenza, and meningococcal other groups. Usually 3 group of vaccines we usually give: pneumococcal, meningococcal, and influenza. Okay, and we should keep the patient for prophylactic antibiotics. Okay. So second one, now try to identify this specimen. All these pictures are not clear, but these are the specimens we have in our surgery department, and these are the specimens usually will come in your examination. So try to identify. So this is the specimen of thyroid, and what surgical procedure has been performed is thyroidectomy, total thyroidectomy. Okay. So what is the points in favor? First one is very important: shape, butterfly shape. You can see here, you can see butterfly shape, but one wing is large because of the disease. So you'll see what disease it is. It has 2 lobes, one isthmus, sometimes one pyramidal lobe, which you cannot see properly every time, tracheal groove, 2 borders, and 3 surfaces. So now see, now you can correlate with this image that butterfly shape. So these are 2 lobes. This is isthmus part, or there is sometimes pyramidal lobe. It is not present 100%. It will be, you cannot see in every patient. So in this patient, we cannot see clearly is there a pyramidal lobe is there or not. Okay. So what are the borders? Anterior border and posterior border. You should know which one is the anterior and which is posterior. Thin related to anterior branch of superior thyroid artery. Posterior border usually round, broad, or related to the inferior thyroid artery and parathyroid glands. Usually on the, you see, usually on posterior surface, posterior border, there are on the lower side both parathyroid glands on the lower part of the thyroid, superior and inferior parathyroid glands on the posterior border. So what are the surfaces? Anterolateral surface and medial surface. So anterolateral surface, which is outward one. These are the anterolateral surface and this is the medial surface. So convex, usually convex, covered with sternothyroid, sternohyoid, superior belly of omohyoid, medial border of the sternocleidomastoid muscle. Medial surface, there is a groove. This is the groove. Okay, concave surface. So it is usually related to two tubes, which you know, trachea and esophagus. So it is a tracheoesophageal groove. This one. It is related to two nerves. Which one? External laryngeal nerve of superior laryngeal nerve and recurrent laryngeal nerve. And there are two muscles, inferior constrictor muscle, constrictor of pharynx and cricothyroids. So what is the anatomical position? It is usually present in a midline, in a thyroid region. So what is thyroid region? Lateral lobe extend up to from oblique line of thyroid cartilage to 4 to 5 tracheal ring. So this is the thyroid region and laterally it is bounded by the Berry's ligament. So laterally Berry's ligament and upper part from thyroid cartilage to 5 to upper border of the oblique line of the thyroid cartilage to 4 to 5 tracheal rings. And usually isthmus lies over second, third or sometimes fourth tracheal ring. Usually second and third. So this is the anatomy of thyroid and parathyroid gland. It is situated over here and what I am saying is thyroid region is oblique line of the thyroid cartilage. This is the oblique line. Okay. And below it is up to 4th or 5th tracheal ring. Sometime it can extend and sometimes it can extend below the up to the sternum or below the retrosternal part. And laterally Berry's ligament. So next question will come to you. What are the arterial supply and venous drainages? You all know there are superior thyroid artery, inferior thyroid artery, superior thyroid artery is a branch of external carotid artery and inferior thyroid artery is a branch of thyrocervical trunk. Sometimes thyroidema artery, which is a branch of brachiocephalic trunk or sometimes arises from arch of aorta. And what is the venous drainage? So superior thyroid artery is superior thyroid vein and middle thyroid vein usually drains into internal jugular vein and inferior thyroid vein usually drains into left brachiocephalic vein. So what are the indications of total thyroidectomy? You should know Graves' disease with toxicity, toxic nodule, ophthalmopathy, compressive symptoms because of enlargement of thyroid like dyspnea, dysphagia, and dyspnea and dysphagia. Superior vena cava syndrome sometimes when it will compress the superior vena cava. And cancer related, like if it is benign, more than 4 centimeter nodule, then you should know the Bethesda grading of nodule based on FNAC. Okay. So you should know the types of surgery. Okay, total thyroidectomy in which we have to remove entire thyroid gland. So what specimen we are seeing is a specimen of total thyroidectomy. Then the terms come near total thyroidectomy, in which we have to remove both the lobes, leaving behind minimal tissue around the recurrent laryngeal nerve. So I will tell where will be the recurrent laryngeal nerve, where it is situated, what is the course. But avoiding injury to the recurrent laryngeal nerve, we should keep the minimal thyroid tissue in the tracheoesophageal groove. That is known as near total thyroidectomy. Then comes the term subtotal thyroidectomy, in which we have to remove from both lobes. We have to remove 6 to 8 grams of total tissue.
Usually thumb size.
Usually thumb size, thumbnail size.
Thumb size.
And then hemithyroidectomy. Hemithyroidectomy is removing the one lobe with the isthmus. And one Hartley-Dunhill procedure it's a bit of subtotal thyroidectomy, removing one lobe entirely with isthmus and second lobe partially. There are certain minimal invasive procedures that can be asked to you, but it is a more of a postgraduate level questions. But you should know the terms at least. What is a video assisted? There are minimal invasive procedures known as VATS surgery, video assisted thyroid surgery, then transoral robotic thyroidectomy, and transoral endoscopic thyroidectomy vestibular approach. That is a NOTES, natural orifice endoscopic, total endoscopic surgery. So by NOTES also we can remove thyroid by vestibular approach. Okay, and yeah, that is also known as scarless endoscopic thyroidectomy. And endoscopic thyroidectomy, except from vestibular approach, it can be done from breast axillary, bilateral axillary breast approach, or axillary breast bilateral approach. There are capsules that can be asked to you, what is a true capsule and what is a false capsule. So inner capsule is a true capsule which is formed by condensation of connective tissue, and the false capsule is derived from pretracheal fascia of deep cervical fascia, which engulf the whole of the thyroid gland and attach to the thyroid bone. This is the main reason. This is the main reason of the movement of thyroid while deglutition. So what is the suspensory ligament of Berry? Is a thickened false capsule that is laterally extended and involving it is attaching to the carotid artery. Okay. So next question comes to you. What are the steps of thyroidectomy? Operative, yes. So what you should be thorough with it. Okay, these are the basics. What are the long cases? You should be very thorough with the operative steps, complications. So what is the position? You should know how we give the incision. Okay, raising the flap. Then we do a deep cervical fascia incision. We raise the muscles, strap muscles. Then we should identify what is the main here. We should identify middle thyroid vein first, because it has a short course and direct branch. So we should identify the middle thyroid vein and we should ligate it first. Then we have to go for superior inferior thyroid vessels, first artery and vein. We should know what is the course of recurrent laryngeal nerve, superior laryngeal nerve, and branches of the superior laryngeal nerve like external laryngeal nerve, internal laryngeal nerve. Then we have to dissect the isthmus. We should do the hemostasis, place the drain, and close the incision. So we should know how to avoid injuries to the laryngeal nerves. So there are certain triangles or spaces or anatomical landmarks to avoid injuries for external laryngeal nerve, known as Reeves space, Joll's triangle, Joll's triangles, sternothyroid laryngeal triangle, and Cernia classification. I will later discuss it. And recurrent laryngeal nerve. For recurrent laryngeal nerve, there will be Beer's triangle, which is also known as Riddle's triangle, Simon's triangle, triangle of Rowley, and relation with Zucker-Kendall tubercle. You should know, at least you should know the terms. No one will ask what is that Beer's triangle, and if someone asks, this is for bonus marks. Okay, at least you should know the names, terms. Okay, so what is the Reeves space? It is a cricothyroid space of Reeves. While doing medial dissection at the superior pole of cricothyroid space for ligating the artery and vein individually to avoid injury to the external laryngeal nerve. Okay, it is a critical step. What is a Joll's triangle? Joll's triangle is made by midline, medially midline, above by the strap muscles, laterally by the upper pole of the thyroid and thyroid vessels. So in that Joll's triangle, what is main important is a external laryngeal branch of superior laryngeal nerve, which crosses the superior thyroid artery. So on crossing that superior thyroid artery, there is a classification known as Cernia classification. Okay, so you should know what is the Cernia classification. It is a course classification of anatomical variation of course of external branch of superior laryngeal nerve in respect of superior thyroid artery.
These are not important.
That is for postgraduates. Okay, so you should know what is how the Zucker-Kendall tubercle of Zucker-Kendall is important. Yes.
স্যার আর্টারি ডিসেকশনের সময় স্যার এই যে সুপিরিয়র থাইরয়েড আর ইনফিরিয়র থাইরয়েড আর্টারি যে ডিসেকশন হবে স্যার ওইটা কি মানে দুটোই ক্লোজ নাকি একটা মানে ক্লোজ টু থাইরয়েড স্যার এটা এক একটা বইতে এক একটা লেখা আছে আর কি
Yes. Very good question. But firstly, I will tell. Previously, it was said that superior thyroid artery should be ligated near to the thyroid lobe, and inferior thyroid artery should be ligated beyond the thyroid lobe, away from the thyroid lobe. But now it is changed. Now you have to tie the subcapsular branches,
Inferior thyroid individual branches.
individual branches of the.
মানে not the trunk. Trunk বাঁধলে কি হবে recurrent laryngeal nerve may be tied. মানে individual branches of inferior thyroid artery. And
Yes.
superior thyroid are towards blend.
Okay, because once the superior thyroid or inferior thyroid artery reaches the capsule, it will give the branches to the below the capsule. It will give branches. So we have to identify
Inferior আছে দেখো.
inferior thyroid artery, like inferior thyroid arteries. Inferior thyroid artery will give branches.
This one is
Beer's triangle. So Beer's triangle is
this is
recurrent.
if you tie here তাহলে কি হবে ওটা there may be injury to the recurrent laryngeal nerve. So we tie the branches, individual branches.
It's like both the arteries close to the thyroid.
হ্যাঁ close to thyroid but individual artery মানে branches.
Not the trunk. We usually not do
For
previously.
inferior thyroid artery, not the trunk. তার মানে towards thyroid artery মানে thyroid gland. আগে কি বলতে away from thyroid এটা হচ্ছে towards thyroid gland. Both are towards thyroid gland.
Okay, sir.
So what are the complications? Immediate complications like
এগুলো post op ধরা হবে
Ah.
issue না? ঠিক আছে।
you should be thorough with it. So third one. Now try to identify what is this specimen.
This is important, commonly asked.
This is commonly asked, very much
Yeah.
important. Hope you had made your minds.
Yes.
So, the specimen of gallbladder. So what surgeries has been performed? Cholecystectomy. You don't know whether it is a open cholecystectomy or lap cholecystectomy, but you can identify
Specimen
by
of
seeing the
gallbladder.
specimen. If you see there is a clip over the
On the
cystic
inside.
duct, then it is a laparoscopic cholecystectomy. Or if you see, then it is a open cholecystectomy, preferably open cholecystectomy. So what are the points in favor? Why you say so? It's a gallbladder because of the shape, pyriform shape. It has the parts, fundus, body, infundibulum, neck, and cystic duct. Hartmann pouch is not a part of gallbladder. It is a pathological outpouching. Okay. Then strawberry appearance. What we usually see in gallbladder most commonly cholesterol stones or mixed stones. So in that we usually see a cholesterosis of the mucosa of gallbladder. What are the stones? Cholesterol, pigment, and mixed. Most common cholesterol. Second one mixed, and third one is pigmented. Pigmented is usually seen in hemolytic diseases. Okay. And what is the most common question is asked? Which layer is not present in gallbladder is submucosa. There is a mucosa, there is a muscular layer, and there is a serosa. But there is no submucosa in gallbladder. Okay. So now you can see, now you can relate how it is a gallbladder. I just turned it 90 degree on right side. So this is the cystic duct margin. This is the neck region. This is the infundibulum. This part is the infundibulum. This is the neck region.
Fundus.
Then this is the body, and this is the fundus. Okay. And in this image you cannot see clearly because of the poor picture, but you can see here. This appearance. This is known as strawberry appearance for cholesterosis. The cholesterol deposits in the mucosa. Okay, and what is the Hartmann? Is the infundibulum, outpouching of the infundibulum.
Sir? Hello?
Hello.
Sir, please can you repeat the parts of the gallbladder in the specimen once more?
This is the fundus, then this is the body, then this is the neck, this is the cystic duct, and neck, and in between neck and cystic duct there is a infundibulum. But Hartmann pouch, not a usual part. It is a pathological outpouching of the infundibulum because of the stone impaction over there. And because of the chronic stone impaction, this Hartmann in the infundibulum, which leads to a Hartmann pouch, and it will sometimes cause a Mirizi syndrome. You should go and see what is Mirizi syndrome, what are the types of Mirizi syndrome. Okay. So what can be asked to you is a Calot's triangle and what is hepatocystic triangle. So Calot's triangle, here you can see the original Calot's triangle. Now Calot's triangle is known as boundaries are by the CBD medial side, laterally by the cystic duct, and upper margin is by the cystic artery. Okay.
Common hepatic duct.
Common hepatic duct. Common hepatic duct, cystic duct,
and margin, lower border of lower border of the inferior surface of the liver.
Liver. This is that is original Calot's triangle, which is known as hepatocystic triangle. Okay.
The content is the artery and lymph node.
Artery and lymph node. Why it is important? Calot's triangle and hepatocystic triangle. Why it is important? Because in the gallbladder dissection, we usually see there are so many anatomical variations of cystic artery, right hepatic artery, and posterior sectoral ducts in this area. To avoid injury, we have to dissect this Calot's triangle or hepatocystic triangle. Okay, to avoid injury to any vessel or any anatomical important duct. Also, what is the vascular supply? So vascular supply is by the cystic artery, which is a branch of right hepatic artery. Okay, which is a branch of common hepatic artery, which is a branch of celiac. So what are the veins? There is no terms known as cystic vein. There are certain directly drainage from the gallbladder to the liver, from the gallbladder liver bed. Okay, where the gallbladder is attached to the liver, it will directly drain in the liver. There is no separate cystic vein in this gallbladder. Oh, okay. And what is the most common lymph node which usually primarily gallbladder drains into is a cystic lymph node or lymph node of Lund. Okay. So what are the indications? Next, there can be asked what are the indications of cholecystectomy, like symptomatic polylithiasis, okay, biliary colic or acute cholecystitis, choledocholiithiasis, okay. In choledocholiithiasis is a stone in CBD, but usually CBD stone is classified as primary and secondary, and most common is a secondary one, which is descended from the gallbladder. So we have to do cholecystectomy in choledocholiithiasis patient also. And gallstone pancreatitis, if that CBD stone dislodges below and occlude the ampulla of Vater, it will lead to pancreatitis, which is known as gallstone pancreatitis. In that case also we have to do cholecystectomy. And in cholangitis patients. And what can be asked to you is what are the indications of asymptomatic polylithiasis, cholecystectomies. So we can do cholecystectomy in sickle cell disease. Like I already told you, in hemolytic diseases, patient will develop pigment stones, and due to stones there will be cholecystitis. So in a sickle cell disease, we remove gallbladder to avoid cholecystitis. Then while giving total parenteral nutrition, there will be developing polylithiasis, and patient may may have an attack, cholecystitis attack. There will be higher chance of biliary sludge and a higher chance of cholecystitis. Chronic immunosuppression patient and acalculous cholecystitis. Okay. Then gallbladder dyskinesia, gallbladder polyp, not all polyp, more than 10 centimeter.
Millimeter.
No, sorry, more than 10 millimeter. And porcelain gallbladder, which is a precancerous lesion. So later, later they can ask you with how the cholesterol is formation. You can go through it. Okay. Then what are the steps of laparoscopic or open cholecystectomy? So you should be thorough with both. Operative surgeries, operative steps. Where we put the ports, the 10 mm port, epigastric port, 10 mm umbilical port, 5 mm mid axillary port, mid clavicular port, and anterior axillary. Okay, you should know. Or how we approach the critical view of safety. Okay, patient position, reverse Standalone position, left lateral. And okay, what is the main important thing in dissection of the calloids? While doing laparoscopic cholecystectomy, we do posterior dissection of calloids first, then anterior. But in open cholecystectomy,
Anterior.
first we do anterior calloids dissection, then posterior. Okay. This is the main thing. You should go through the steps of the operative surgery. Okay. So next one. This is an easy one
So important.
and very much important
And commonly given.
and commonly given. If you have 2 or 3 specimens, you will be facing this definitely one. So what is the specimen? Appendix, you know. What is the surgical procedure performed? Is appendicectomy either lap or either open? Points in favor: vermiform, cul-de-sac-like structure, blind tube. Okay, luminal opening on one side. This is the main part. Okay, and mesoappendix, and it is also known as abdominal tonsil because of the lymphoid tissues. Okay, so now you can relate what is what part. Okay, this is the blind end part and this is the luminal part, and this yellow on the this is the mesoappendix part. Okay, this is the tip. Okay, so now the position which is most common, retrocecal, then second one subcecal, then third one posterior, and each position, if patient is having retrocecal appendicitis, patient may be having some specific signs of appendicitis. You should know. Okay. So what is the vascular supply? What vascular supply is by the appendicular artery, which is a branch of posterior cecal branch, which is a branch of inferior division of the inferior iliocolic artery. What are the indications of appendicectomy? You very well know it: acute appendicitis, which is most common one, then recurrent, carcinoid, mucocele, or ileal conduit. For making ileal conduit, we also do appendicectomy, or on table
ureteric graft.
Ureteric graft. Yeah, we can use appendix for a loss of ureteral segment, and we can use it for a appendicular graft.
It is non-pathological here. And on table colonic clavus.
Okay. Now, interval appendicectomy is not usually done after drainage of the abscess or appendicular mass. Appendicular lump is not usually recommended now. Okay. So this term, interval appendicectomy, is obsolete now. What are the etiological factors? You know, what is the main bacterial infection? E. coli, then fecalith obstruction. The main thing which can be asked is a pathophysiology. So what usually happen? First, obstruction of the appendiceal lumen, then there will be increased mucus production, which will cause increased luminal pressure, which will lead to decreased blood flow of the appendix, then oxygen supply, hypoxia, there will be ulceration. But due to ongoing accumulation of mucus, which will lead to promote microbe invasions and inflammation and swelling of the appendix, and it will lead to necrosis and perforation. What can be asked to you is incisions. What are common incisions of the appendicectomy? Is a modified McBurney's incision. McBurney's incision.
We commonly
give, and Langer's incision, also known as Lange incision, also known as Bickney incision. Okay. Cosmetic incision. And there are Rocky Davis incision is a transverse incision we usually give in a small children's. if we do open appendicectomy in infants or small children like 2 to 3 years of age, we usually give Rocky Davis incision. And if we have to extend laterally or medially, then muscle cutting incisions we have to give. On lateral part we have to give Rutherford Morrison incision, or medial part we have to give Fowler Weir incision extension. So come on the fifth part.
Sir, which incision is most common?
I have already told this one. McBurney's is the most common incision given.
Commonly given in emergency.
Commonly given in emergency. Okay. It can be appendicectomy can be done by midline incision, paramedian incision, but these are these are very important. Usually asked. McBurney's incision is the most common given incision. Now come this specimen. Try to identify. Okay, you might feel it very difficult, but
To end also.
yes, is a specimen of involving sigmoid colon, rectum, anal canal, anus with growth. And now you can see this is the sigmoid colon part, this is the rectum part. Okay, this is the anal canal, this one small one. Now you can see this is the anal verge involving skin, also proliferative growth involving anal canal, rectum, and
Usually
Skin.
skin attached.
skin. There will be skin. I will later on explain. And this is the sigmoid colon, and this is the rectum part. Okay. So what surgical procedure has been abdominal peri surgery or some rectal carcinoma, C rectal. Rectal and anal carcinomas. Okay. Miles procedures is also known as Miles procedure. What is points in favor is luminal opening on both sides and skin attached on one side. You can see here skin, but it is because of the ulcer proliferative growth you cannot see, but usually you see there will be skin. Perianal skin. Okay. Presence of Taenia coli on the sigmoid colon, hostrations, presence of epiploic appendages, perianal skin and with anal canal, and silk suture present on the mesenteric border of the specimen. Now you can see here. See, this is the silk mesenteric borders, and these mesenteric borders usually is present on sigmoid colon. Rectum, you cannot see the mesenteric part. I can explain it better over here. Okay, so this is the sigmoid colon part. Then this is the rectum. It starts from here, rectum, and now you can see proximal 1/3 proximal 1/3 part is covered. Peritoneum is covered on anterior and lateral surfaces. Then middle 1/3 part is on posterior surface. Peritoneal surface is present on anterior surface, but absent on posterior and lateral surface. And distal 1/3 part of no peritoneal coverage. Okay, and you can see skin margin here, which I was talking about. There is appendix epiploic over here. You can see Taenia coli. Okay. So now comes the vascular supply. So there are three main supplies to the rectum: is superior rectal artery, which is a branch of inferior mesenteric artery, and middle rectal artery or inferior rectal artery, which is a branch of external iliac artery. So what can be the what are the macroscopic types of rectal growth? Is non-stenosing type and stenosing type. Non-stenosing type, it can be proliferative, cauliflower type, or ulcerative type, and stenosing type is annular usually. These are the annular type. These are non-stenosing type. This is ulcerative type. This is proliferative or cauliflower type. This is annular type, which usually this is tubular, the long segment. So you should know the staging of shear rectum. You should be thorough with it. So now try to identify this specimen.
Also giving commonly.
This is very commonly given specimen in your exam. You can see this folds.
Fold.
By the seeing this fold, you can identify.
Rugosity.
So the specimen of stomach with growth in antrum. Okay, usually neoplastic. Why neoplastic? You should say. I will say why. What surgical procedure has been performed? Distal gastrectomy. It is not total gastrectomy. You cannot see full stomach here. So it is subtotal gastrectomy or distal gastrectomy. So points in favor. What I was talking about, gastric mucosal fold. These mucosal folds. These. By seeing this mucosal fold or rugosity, you have to identify this is the gastric specimen of stomach. And how I am saying it is neoplastic, it is effaced around ulcer. While in benign ulcer, it is converging towards the base. So in our specimen, it is neoplastic. Okay, raised margins, with
Everted.
everted.
Also.
And ulcer proliferative lesions with elevated margin, which is usually a neoplastic. Lesion extending beyond serosa. These are the points in favor of neoplastic. Why you can say it is a neoplastic? You can see it is going beyond the serosa. It is means
Outward
ulcer.
surface.
Yes, outward surface. It is lesion start usually inside, but it extended outside and involving the serosa, and it can be ulcer proliferative both on other side. So these 3 points is usually in favor of neoplastic. So we can say it is a specimen of CS stomach, and growth is present in antrum. Why in antrum?
Common side.
Yeah, you can see the pylorus over here. This one. Sorry, not this one. That one. This one. You can see this is the pylorus part. Okay.
Lesser, usually commonly lesser curve.
Lesser curvature. Okay. So this is the gross specimen. We can see. See? So
Maybe this one is pylorus.
this one is pylorus. You can see. Okay. Or usually we cut the greater curvature of the side. Here also we usually cut the greater curvature. Where
Common side is antrum and
lesser curvature.
lesser curvature.
So what is
blood
the?
supply and venous drainage
You should be very thorough with it.
and
because
lymph node station.
yes, lymph node drainage of the stomach.
This is important.
So these are the primary drainage of stomach. Which part of the stomach drains to where?
This is perigastric lymph node.
Yes, perigastric lymph nodes. Subpyloric lymph nodes, pancreatico-ileal, renal, pancreatico-splenic group of lymph nodes, then suprapyloric group of lymph nodes. So which part drains to where? These are the primary lymph nodes, and you should know the lymph node stations. It is very, very important. Very much important. What is D1 gastrectomy? What is D2 gastrectomy? Okay, you should know. In D1 gastrectomy, we remove usually up to station 9 lymph nodes.
In celiac axis.
Up to celiac axis, and D2 gastrectomy we should remove up to 12. Okay, hepaticoduodenal ligament. You should know all the stations. You should be knowing it. So, what is the gross specimen classification for stomach? It is usually a intestinal type and diffuse type. So, this is which one is differentiated and which one is better one. It is intestinal type, which is bad one. It is diffuse type, undifferentiated. These are the characteristic points. Okay. For early gastric cancer, there is a Japanese classification.
Usually given as a short note.
Yeah, short notes. So which one is protruded with type 1, protruded 1, type 2, elevated, flat or superficial or depressed. Type 3 is excavated type. For advanced gastric ulcer, there is a Boermann's classification. Okay. So type 1 is phymatoid, means protruded type. Type 2 is ulcerative type. Type 3 is infiltrated type, and type 4 is a diffuse infiltrated type.
Linitis plastica.
Linitis plastica. You should know the staging of CS stomach and what surgeries has been done. For distal gastrectomy, we usually do type 2, Billroth type 2 gastrogenostomy, in which we have removed this part and we close this part proximal duodenal and we pull the loop of jejunum and we attach the resected part of the stomach, distal part of the stomach. Okay.
This is below type 2.
This is Billroth type 2. And if we do total gastrectomy, if the tumor is involving proximal or fundus part of the or cardia part of the stomach, then we have to do total gastrectomy.
And RU and Y.
RU and Y,
The reconstruction.
reconstruction of esophagojejunostomy. Okay. Thank you.
And
There are two specimens which is missing. One is penis and one is breast. I have not found these
in this
specimens
department.
in this department, but it can be given in your exam. Okay, you should be thorough with the specimen. What is the gross pathological type? What is surgical anatomy? What is the importance? What are the surgical steps? What is the complication? Okay, you should be thorough with the discussion part, and you should identify what
Identification is important. Identification of 50% marks.
identification of the specimen, disease part usually contain 50% marks and 50% marks on discussion. So you should be thorough with all these specimens. And sometimes small intestine or large intestine, they can give Michel's diverticulum of small intestine or intussusception, ileocolic intussusception or colocolic intussusception for large intestine. This can be given, but I have not found any specimen in our department. But be ready. In this time, we can, in meal time before exams, we can have these specimen also. So these are all regarding your specimen. You can ask questions now.
স্যার আজকে পিপিটিটা একটু শেয়ার করে দিতে পারবেন?
Okay, we'll share it.
ওকে।
Okay. I am attaching this PPT.
ভালো হয়েছে, আর একটা হয়ে গেলে ছেড়ে দিতে পারবো। ভালো হয়েছে। স্পেসিমেন না পেলে কি করবো?
It's been uploading, right?
জয়েন করেছেন 200 স্টুডেন্ট বাকিরা ঘুমছেন।
ঠিক আছে,
হ্যাঁ, ওই জন্য শেয়ার করে দিলে পেয়ে যাবে।
হচ্ছে আপলোড হয়েছে? হ্যাঁ, হয়ে গেছে আপলোড। Okay, I have uploaded the presentation. You can see over here. Okay, you can download it.
ওকে স্যার।
Okay, thank you.
ওকে, গুড।
স্টে সেফ।
Thank you, sir.
বেড়ে যাচ্ছে গরমের